It's okay. You got it. It looks
There's
like
a great
it
tech class coming up with George Kelly.
started. All right, looks like we are recording, says up in the top left, so we'll be able to kind of post this if we need to. Let me just
right,
make
cool.
sure I should be able to share. Yep.
Bean, do you need to be able to share your screen too?
Nope, Leon's got this. He's better at that than I am.
All right,
I'll just
perfect.
mess it up.
I'm gonna dip out.
Yep, you're
All right.
good. Thank you. It looks like I'm good with everything.
First off, why Leon is getting his stuff, his contract, which it looks like he's got. Does anybody have any specific questions right now concerning the agreement of sale? And then what I would like to do is talk about compliance a little bit first, Leon, if that's okay.
Sure, yeah.
Because how you set up your command is going to impact how your compliance will come over. So I just want to make sure everybody has a good understanding of how you start either a room or a loop and connect it with the command. So does anybody have any specific questions? All right. All right. Well, Leon, it looks like you sold this property or bought this property.
Yeah, so for this one, I tried to find one that needed a little bit of help. So I have two versions of this one. So I am the listing agent for this property that sold back in March. This first tab right here, which is this one, this is the agreement of sale that was presented to me. And then working with the buyer's agent, I did this version. So I'll show you some of the changes that we made. But I'd like to see if you guys pick up on some of the stuff that we prefer as an office, and that would help us with our compliance and just making sure that the contract is buttoned up.
Right. Now, Leon, do we have the other agent's name on this contract?
Yes. I was trying to figure out, I was trying to grade out, we can skip over that page. So this person's actually he's pretty laid back. He was a pretty cool agent to work with. And honestly, I think he was just rushing to get this in.
Okay,
so,
well,
I don't know,
as long as he's otherwise a pretty good agent, he was rushing because probably we were in the guideline. Okay.
Yeah,
so
he
guys,
was rushing. And this was early last year, early 2020. And like I said, he was a great agent to work with. So I don't want you guys to judge or like hold him to any of this stuff. So we'll kind of cruise by his name because I couldn't figure out I was trying to cover up his name. I should have printed it out and covered it, but
okay.
I look back and I noticed some things that I would have done a little different on my updates that we worked on together.
Well, yeah, that's why we're here today, because last time I shared an agreement of sale that I wrote, and to be honest, I've probably written 500 contracts, maybe 600 contracts in my career. And there's always room for improvement. Even after writing that many contracts, on the contract that I shared the last month when we did this class, there were some things that I could have did better. So that's why we're trying to arm, especially new agents, with this knowledge, so that even though you're a new agent, your paperwork is buttoned up. And like Leon, you don't have to school the other agent. You don't have to be schooled when you turn one of these in.
Yeah.
And it also helps Keller Williams have a better public facing look, like we know what we're doing. So
Yep.
Well, let's start with section 1 here.
So section 1. So to begin with, this contract was submitted on February 11th of 2020. And again, this is the first version, so you'll notice that the seller has not signed this copy when we get to that point. But
okay.
Section 1, like Bean and I always discuss, is very important because this identifies the seller and the buyer. We really would like to see the people's addresses here.
And let me tell you why that's important. Once you go under contract, your buyer is going to choose an attorney. And your attorney is going to need a way to get in touch with not only your buyer, but the seller. Now, the listing agent does provide things to the paralegal or to the attorney's office, but how great would it be that this section is filled out completely and they can send out all the settlement letters and all of that good stuff. These should be current addresses.
Yep.
For the seller, if the place is vacant, ask the listing agent what their current address is, so that, you know, any correspondence will be able to get to them via mail.
Yep.
That's
And
why
if
this
it's
is
been
important.
vacant, and if it's been vacant for a while, usually you can look at the public records too and see where this owner's current address is, current mailing address is.
Very correct. Very, very, very well put there. So,
So as the buyer's agent, he should know his buyer's address. I don't know his buyer's address because I'm the listing agent, and he could have looked up the owner's address or just use the property address if it's not vacant, or if it was vacant just very recently, it might get forwarded to the proper address. So
now, yeah, and I know that in the current state of the market, you are literally showing a house and running back to whatever office or your car hood or wherever you're doing these contracts, and you're trying to get it in because most properties have multiple offers. You don't want your buyers to miss out on an opportunity, but let me tell you, take the extra minute to make sure all information is filled in to these sections. It's going to save you some time on the back end when you're trying to process this paperwork.
yep,
Okay.
exactly.
All right. Let's go
So
into
section-
number 2.
Yep, section 2 now talks about the property. So section 1 was all about the parties to the contract. Section 2 is the property. So we have the tax ID, which is good. He has the county and the full property address. So that's exactly what we want to see there.
Yep. Do not make sure you put the parcel number, especially for newer agents. This is very important. Not that the paralegal or whomever can look it up based on the
Hey,
physical
Mr. Drain, how you
address.
feeling? How you doing?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Andre.
No,
Okay. So just make sure that the parcel number is in there, because that's, you know, how they pull, you know, parcel records, deeds, things like that.
Exactly. So that is good. Section 3 now is the offer and the terms. So section A, we have a purchase price of $129. Section B, which I don't generally use anymore. I think Bean is in agreement. This is kind of like I think an older way of doing it is the deposit is due when the agreement is signed. That means if you are submitting this offer, you have to submit the deposit check with it, basically, so it gets signed, essentially.
Yeah, I'm really surprised they didn't take that out when they updated.
When they did this most recent update.
Yeah, because in the day of electronic signatures and all of that good stuff,
Yeah.
Unless you're going to hand deliver this agreement of sale, I would not use section B.
Exactly.
Just don't do it, because then they're going to expect you, if it's not turned in, technically you can be out of contract, and they can say, oh, we're out of contract. I don't have the escrow check. So it's very easy for them to come in and accept another offer if your agreement was written with B as a deposit upon signing the agreement. That was old school. That's when agreement of sales was actually hand delivered to the listing agent. Those days are gone. Everything is emailed or electronic now. So just keep that in mind. What you
may get as a buyer's agent, you may get some pushback from older agents that say, we want to see a copy of the check. So they want a copy of the check submitted with the offer, not the actual check, but they want to see that the buyer has filled out the deposit check already.
Yes, and let me tell you, if I were taking buyers out in this market, well, anytime, it's just a good rule of thumb, and you feel confident that you've heard what they had to say and that you're going to find them a house, they need to bring their checkbook.
Yeah.
And before you leave the property, so you come back to the office to write this contract, you have that deposit check in hand. That doesn't mean that it can't be shredded if your offer isn't accepted, or, you know, they
Yep.
have a change of heart 20 minutes later. You can destroy that check, but at least you have it. At least you can send a copy with the agreement of sale and the supporting documents,
Yep.
and they know that it's en route to the listing brokerage office. So just as a good rule of thumb, just have your buyers bring a checkbook.
Yep.
There are some people who don't believe in financial institutions and they don't have a checking account. Then they should get a blank money order or something, and then you can fill it out. It's going to be this deposit should equal at least 1% of the sales price.
Yep.
Or the offer price. If for some reason you do escalation calls or really want to put some skin in the game, that can go up to 3, 5, 10%. It's really up to your buyers and what their comfort level is, and also the nature of any offers that are coming in. If it's a really hot property, you want to come in hot, so you want that deposit to reflect that.
Yep.
Anything
You
to
ju-
add there?
Yeah, you
Leon?
just need to, so I do try to have my buyers do at minimum 1%. But like Bean said, I try to have them do as strong a deposit as we can. But you need to have that conversation with your buyers up front. If something is to go south in the transaction, their deposit could potentially be in jeopardy. We'll get to that further down the road. It's not automatically in jeopardy, but if they do a $10,000 deposit on a $125,000 property, that's a lot of skin in the game for if something were to go south. So
Yeah,
just,
it's got to be reflective of the property and the property
yes,
condition and the amount of offers that are coming in, and really
exactly.
how bad your buyers want this property. And let me
Exactly.
tell you, in this market, you got to come in hot. I am starting to see average days on market increase a little bit.
Yep.
Not by a lot, but by some. So we're starting to see a change just a little bit, but you still got to come in hot because you're going to
Exactly.
probably be in multiple offers.
Yep. So the
All
list
right.
price on this property was 125. So they came in over. I still, even though this line is part of B, I always check off that it's a check because 99.99% of the time it's going to be delivered as a check. If it is a money order like being talked about, I would specify that. And then it's due within 3 days of the acceptance. So they have to have that check delivered to us, to our office, by within 3 days
Of acceptance. So
of
if it's
acceptance. Yeah.
if it's accepted today, which is Wednesday, then you
Yep.
just count. Weekends would count unless
Yes.
otherwise stipulated in the
Yep.
contract. Also, don't ever have your buyers give cash. I don't even know why that box is there. You can't
don't
take
know.
cash to the settlement. You shouldn't give cash for a deposit. You want a receipt or a
Yep.
record showing that you paid this deposit. So please do not have your buyers pay cash. I know
Yep.
there are some cultures that really like cash. Cash is king. But in this instance, take that cash, get a money order. So
I was
you
just
have
gonna
a
say, if you have
record.
somebody, exactly, you have somebody that wants to pay cash and is insistent on it, insist on them going to just get a money order.
Right. You really want your buyers to have a receipt, and that
Yeah.
would be in their best interest.
Yep. And then line D talks about additional deposits. So this is like Bean was talking about, some skin in the game. If your buyer doesn't want to put a ton up front without having the inspection or whatnot, then you can do this additional deposit. Now, the only thing I would say about this, I would be leery of this. So we'll talk about it. I would personally make sure that this date range exceeds your home inspection, meaning your home inspection negotiations have been completed. Then your buyer releases a second deposit.
And the reason for that is you can really kind of start doing the happy dance after your home inspections are negotiated, because then you're basically just waiting for a mortgage commitment and the appraisal to come through.
Yep.
And unless it's some really fluke, unless this is really overpriced or you go well above list
Yeah.
price, you're not going to run into an appraisal issue. And, you know, they've already they're already pre-approved. So a mortgage commitment, as long as you know, they get their loan application in and supply all the documents, that's just a matter of time. So,
Exactly.
yep.
Exactly. So that's the only thing, because like Bean said, with home inspection is one of the largest hurdles we have to jump in this process. So I just would make sure if you are having your buyer put more skin in the game, make sure this number exceeds their home inspection date.
Absolutely.
So then section 4 talks about inclusions and exclusions. So you will notice this box right here.
Hold up, can you go, I'm sorry, Leon, can you go back to the
Sure.
that whole meaning of don't let it you said exceed the inspection date? I'm confused.
So this date says an additional deposit is due within 12 days of acceptance. So meaning if they accepted this today, if my seller signed this today, in
12 days
12
later.
days, they would have to give this extra $2,500.
Okay.
They could have set a home inspection date of 15 days from now and then given my seller 5 more days to negotiate that. And
Okay.
so they would be on the hook for this 2,500 without having the home inspection hurdle cleared.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Alright.
So Andre, you want to clear that home inspection. So, you know, when you're writing an agreement, it will for the inspections at a default 15 days if you do not put a date in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you let it default to 15 days, then maybe this shouldn't be, maybe this should be something like 20 days.
I was gonna say this should be probably, could have been a typo, maybe he meant to do 21 days.
Yeah.
As a listing agent, I'll accept that because they,
Yeah, absolutely.
they're putting more skin in the game before we even finish up the home inspection, potentially.
Right. Right.
Does that make
Okay.
sense, Andre?
Yeah, I got it. Cause I was just thinking I'm going on I'm showing a property today
Okay.
to make sure that my client takes the 1%
No
of the
worries.
purchase
No worries.
price. And then, you know, going forward, if they say yes, I'm pretty sure they will say yes. But going forward, looking at that, like, how does that play a part?
Gotcha. All right, so the next section, anybody else have any questions on the first 3 sections at all? All right, so the next section talks about the inclusions and exclusions. You'll notice this box is the same box that is on the seller's disclosures and the same box that is on the listing agreement. So when you are the listing agent and you have your seller fill out the listing agreement and the seller's disclosure, they're going to have these boxes on there, and the seller is going to talk about what they are willing to leave, and that is in working order.
Working order, correct. Now, also in the document section of Bright, there may be an inclusions and exclusions list.
Yes.
That, so like, let's say there was this beautiful chandelier in the dining room and you fell in love with that chandelier. And you look at those documents and you see that the exclusion, yeah, it's in working order. They're probably gonna check that on the seller's disclosure, that it's in working order, but on their exclusion list, they're gonna exclude that chandelier. Okay, now I don't see a chandelier on this box, but I'm giving you it as an example only because it's happened to me in the past, where if the seller removes that chandelier, they have to replace it with a light, and that's got to be made clear either in the inclusions, exclusions, in the MLS or someplace, so you know that that chandelier isn't included.
Yeah.
So look at that inclusion, exclusions list. Now, if it's something that your buyers can't live without, everything's negotiable. If they wanted that chandelier included, it should be additional inclusions. Or let's say there's a play set or whatever, a shed that they want to make sure is included. You can put an extra layer here by specifying there in the additional inclusions, as well as the exclusions. Let's say there was a junk car sitting out front. all the tires were off, you know, you could put in here, broken down car to be removed prior to settlement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just to put that extra layer and to make sure that they sign off on it. And then if you do your walkthrough and that car is there, you know, they have to take it away.
What are you looking for, Luca?
And then, so make sure you look for that inclusions, exclusion list in the documents.
You can not take a break. Take a break. You don't need any more right now. And you'll notice right here in the underline italics, it says should the seller's disclosure differ from this list supersedes the seller's disclosure. So, for example, on this one, this property did have a washer and dryer that the seller left. This person did not check off washer and dryer here. So if the seller wanted to take the washer and dryer, these guys did not mark off that they wanted it and that it was there.
Yeah, or vice versa.
Or vice
if it was still
versa.
there, yeah, if it was still there and they didn't want it, they could have pushed back.
They could have said, we want the seller to remove these two.
That's
exactly.
right.
So this is kind of, a lot of people glaze over this. As an agent, this is a section that I kind of focus on because it's so much stuff, so many little check marks, and you really got to pay attention because I had an agent do exactly what Bean said. I had sellers, not this property, but I had sellers that just bought a brand new washer and dryer that the wife loved. It was like a $2,000 washer and dryer set. The wife loved how it operated. They were purchasing new construction. New construction does not provide a washer and dryer. They specified on their seller's disclosure that they wanted to keep their washer and dryer. They wanted to take it with them to their new construction instead of purchasing a set again. The agent that brought the offer checked off washer and dryer. Well, I went back to him. I said, hey, one of the negotiations, they said they're keeping their washer and dryer. They're taking it with them to their new construction. He said, well, I mean, we're just trying to negotiate here. And I said, well, this is something they don't want to negotiate on. So we're going to take that off of the disclosure or off of the agreement of sale. So you have to be careful because my sellers did not pick up on that. I sent this to my sellers and I always send an outline of my thoughts of it and I discuss it with them. They did not notice that. So they would have been out, say $2,000 to purchase a new washer and dryer set.
Right. Now, Leon has a very good point there. This will affect sellers probably more than buyers because sellers do not pay attention. So when you get to the point where you have sellers, this is an area in their best interest that you need to focus on because they do not. They skim over it.
Yep.
They figured that they've checked everything on the seller's disclosure or this, that, and the other. And but you've got to pay attention to this and add any additional inclusions and add any additional exclusions that you don't want.
Yep. All right. Any questions on that section? All right. So section 5 talks about any rental or lease agreements that the property is subject to. So the first section talks about if the property itself is leased or if there is a tenant in place, is or is not. The second section talks about any third-party agreement. So this is or is not as well. And it's talking about like solar panels, any tanks, whether it be propane, oil tanks, those kinds of things. So you want to make, go ahead, me.
I was just going to say, if there is a tenant in place here and your buyers is purchasing this house to live in, it's going to be their primary residence, okay? And they are not going to buy this as an investment. They're going to live there. Make sure that in your additional terms that you put that the tenant will vacate prior to settlement. You do not want to have a squatting situation for your buyer because your phone will be blowing up. It is so hard to get tenants out of the properties for whatever reason, whether it's non-payment or whatever you're selling, because the law kind of goes towards the tenant in Delaware. you are, and especially in this environment with COVID, courts are not doing evictions. So you make sure that your buyer is protected, and that if you have to extend settlement to get those, you keep extending that settlement until those tenants are out.
So they're gone.
And that you can do a proper walkthrough, because if they have to move out, I bet they're not going to move out so gingerly.
Yep.
So just make sure that you put that in section 32 to protect your buyers, that the tenant will be gone and that is subject to another walkthrough after tenants have vacated.
You got it. Any questions on that? Anybody? All right, next section, this is a big one, financing contingency. So it's going to be yes if the buyer is obtaining a mortgage of any type. This one is FHA, could be VA, could be conventional, could be a renovation loan like 203K, different things. So if they're saying yes to a mortgage, they want to put what type it is here, the term in years, the loan amount, which this should be also on the pre-approval letter, and the maximum loan to value ratio. So again, I said this person was rushing. FHA is 3.5% down, so this should be 96.5. That's a very minor issue that it was just a typo. So not a big deal. I didn't like crush him on something like that. But when you're writing a contract, you just want to write the cleanest thing you can. So take your time, make sure these numbers are correct. Make sure that you're really doing a double take of it, because you're going to have your buyer sign off on this, and this is a legal and binding contract. So when I'm doing this, I like to really take my time and make sure that everything is filled out like very thoroughly. And
Well, yeah, because this section is almost like the heart of the contract.
yes.
It's telling you how the money is coming to the table.
Yep.
And also, if you are in negotiations and the purchase price change, then make sure you come back to this section and
Yep.
make the necessary corrections here, because now this will be different, whether it's more
Very
or
true.
less
Very
of the purchase price. So just make sure that you correct this section as well.
Very true. This next part here, final date for buyer's mortgage commitment. So as a buyer's agent, this is something you're going to want to check with the lender when you're filling this out. I know Bean and I discuss this a lot. I like to do anywhere from like 7 to 10 days prior to settlement. So I usually do about 1 week prior to the settlement. So
that way, right. And that allows, if something were to come up with the mortgage commitment, maybe they're missing a tax return or something like that, that gives you a week. If you need to extend it, you can, but it gives you some time, some cushion time before settlement, that you can take care of any unexpected roadblocks. Okay. And I see that it's infamy, that it's not ever due, right? The mortgage commitment for this?
Yep, that's blank. So as a listing agent, I had a little bit of issue with that.
Yes.
And as a buyer's agent, I would have an issue with that too, because I want to make sure I'm writing a clean contract. And that's something that you definitely want to have a date there. And you'll see when we get to the next version, you'll see some of the changes that I made. The next section, part B here, it talks about how the buyer is going to make their application in how many days. So this, I like to see anywhere 5 to 10 days at the most. 10 days should be the max. If you're taking around a buyer and they're pre-approved, they should already be kind of getting their paperwork together, and they should be in communication with their lender, and they should be ready to make their mortgage application fairly quickly, especially in this market, with once getting this signed contract.
I agree. And I think Leon is a little bit more lenient than I am in that section. I like to see 3 to 5 days, because he's exactly right. If your buyer is serious, they have their documents ready to go. And there's no reason, as soon as this is ratified and signed, that they should be called, their next call should be to their lender, and your next call should be to their lender to make sure that, you know, that the loan process is moving along, because the quicker you can do that, the quicker your mortgage commitment is going to come.
Yep. So today I'm just gonna, because we're kind of taking a while. I'm gonna try and cruise through and just kind of focus on some of the sections that we're filling out. But I definitely take the time and read through the entire contract for some of the other, because these talks about the ramifications of what happens if you miss a date, if your buyer doesn't do what they're supposed to do, if the seller doesn't do what they're supposed to do. It talks about what can happen from that. So, Bean, do you want to add anything just real quick? I just want to kind of keep moving and show some of the
Yeah,
differences
no,
between the two
no, that's
versions.
exactly right. I mean, there's seller duties and there's buyer duties, and
Yes.
they need to be, and you need to thoroughly school your buyers, especially if they're a first-time buyer, on what their duties are. So please take the time to read those sections.
Exactly. Then settlement, in this section, you're going to put in the county that you want settlement to be held in and the date. So again, we've discussed in the past, doesn't necessarily have to be the county where the property is in, and it is just mutually agreed upon. And again, this date is, if you read the next line, so settlement to be held on 3/27 or before if mutually agreed upon. So this deal was very clean. The buyer was very clean, and they got their mortgage commitment like literally within 3 weeks of us accepting this, and we settled on this deal on March 4th, I believe, so almost 3 weeks early.
Now, excuse me, that's not a COVID cough. I just swallowed something wrong. Just remember that if you have to go past this date, you will need an addendum.
You want to do an addendum, so anything on or before, as long as parties agree, then you are good to go. Anything after, you definitely want to do an addendum that shows that both parties are in agreement.
Question.
Yes.
So like, I don't, because I'm dealing with the my settlement is on the 11th, and they want, like, the buyer wants my client to come all the way up to Wilmington because the office that they have in Smyrna is no longer in use, but it's on your letterhead. So to me, I think that's BS, but that's a whole nother story. And my client really doesn't want to drive all the way up to Wilmington from Maryland. So the buyer sets the date and time and place where the settlement takes place.
Yes, so the buyer sets the date of settlement here, and the buyer contracts the attorney.
Right.
Now, in your situation, I'll work with you one-on-one after this. In your situation, the seller can pre-sign stuff, can pre-sign the deed packet, and just, you have to just reach out to the attorney and say the seller's out of state and wants to pre-sign the packet, and then you can attend the settlement and just sign the final documents with limited power of attorney for him.
Okay. And then they would wire his check to him?
And they'll either wire the funds to him for a fee or release the check to you. They'll ask the seller how they want the funds released.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
but
he
the
could release
seller
the check
should
to you.
work, right,
Go
the
ahead.
seller should work with the paralegal
Yes.
of the attorney's office
Yes.
to say, I'm not attending settlement, and then let the paralegal handle the intrinsics of that.
Yes.
And then.
So that's nothing that I can speak on the seller's behalf. The seller has to initiate that.
Well, you can let the paralegal know that the sellers do not
Yeah.
want to attend settlement, and then
Yes.
have your seller contact the paralegal.
Yep.
All right.
That's exactly what I'll do. I would just send them an email today, since it's so fast. I'd be like, look, the seller is not able to attend this. He's going to reach out to you and try and work everything out with you about pre-signing.
Okay.
All right.
So example, this Friday I've got my closing.
Yes.
And yeah, the sellers live in Pennsylvania, so they're doing it completely virtual.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So in Delaware now, I believe, and Bean, I don't know if you've seen this. I thought I heard that attorneys are accepting electronic signatures.
Well, I think in this time,
Yes.
The COVID time.
Yes.
I think they will accept it now,
Yes.
but that I wouldn't say that that's going to be the norm.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. They are accepting electronic, I believe, for COVID measures. But typically what they would do, Jeff, is what we just explained to Andre. Even in non-COVID times, a seller can pre-sign if they're out of
Mhm.
state. And what the attorney will do, and I actually just had an attorney do this back in like October. I had sellers pre-sign, and they FedEx the actual deed packet out, had them sign it, FedEx it back to them, to the attorney. So it's a ink signature, and it's notarized.
Mhm,
And
yeah.
that's
Yes.
typically how it's done in the past. And then the real estate agent is able to attend the closing and are granted limited power of attorney to just sign the final documents.
Right. So, but also in the day and age where, realtors are limited going into closings, that's why they're allowing the
Yeah.
electronic signatures, because in Delaware, a lot of attorneys, only people who need to sign can be at the settlement. Now, if you have a limited power of attorney, that would mean you.
Yeah.
So you could go to the closing and sign on your party's behalf.
Yep.
All right.
Exactly. So section 8, again, is nothing to fill out, but time is of the essence. And that just means that your party, whoever you're representing, is contractually obligated to meet the date set forth in this agreement.
That's it. Yep.
So you need to really project manage them. I say, as an agent, we are the project managers of the transaction, because there are a lot of spokes in the wheel, and it is our job to facilitate that everybody completes their duty to make sure that the wheel turns and we get it closed. That's the best way that I can explain it. So as the project manager, you need to be, whoever, if you're representing the seller, you need to be like, look, we need to make sure we have our response for the home inspection by tomorrow. If we don't have a response, we could be out of contract. And same thing on the buyer side. If we don't get our request in by such and such a date, we could lose that option. Section 9 talks about conveyance. Now, we do want to check off one of these boxes. 97% of the time, it's going to be in fee simple. When you get to downstate, I know one of Jeff's deals is there's ground rent that he was working with. So there are some ground rent situations. And I think there might only be one co-op building. I think we always get hung up on this.
Yeah, I think there's only one co-op, but don't confuse that with condo.
Condo and co-op are different. So condos are still transferred in fee simple.
Yes. So don't get the two, because a co-op, you almost have to be elected in.
Yes.
Okay, because you own part of the building that this co-op is in. Not only your unit, but part of ownership in the building. So there's a difference, okay? A condo, you only own your unit, and there's a condo association that actually owns the property.
Yep.
So just know the difference there.
Exactly. Section 10 talks about the disbursement of those deposits. So again, I'm not going to really get into every one, but this is what we were talking about when you have a lot of skin in the game. If your buyer has a big deposit, the funds will either be released upon settlement, meaning you get to the closing table, the funds being held by our office escrow account is then transferred to the attorney's escrow account. By signing a release, so both parties agree we're parting ways, deposit is returned or kept by the seller, different things. So you don't want to ever get to go to court. That's not good. So it's not good for anyone. What I've seen a couple of times when there's a major dispute and the brokers get involved in order to save it from going to court, I've seen them just recommend splitting the deposit and then return half to the buyer and half to the seller.
Yeah, and that's where your negotiation skills would come in. instead of trying to go to court to try to
Mhm.
negotiate a win-win. Okay, yeah, I know that my buyers changed their minds, but you know, they're young, whatever the case
Yeah.
may be.
Yep.
Sometimes the seller would do that. It just depends on how much market time they lost and, you know, all
Yeah.
of that kind of good stuff.
Yep.
That's another class.
Section 11 talks about transfer taxes, different prorations. Again, I'm not really going to get into it too much, but you should definitely read this. Transfer taxes, part are assigned to the seller, which is 2%. 2% are also assigned to the buyer. They prorate if there's an oil tank and there's heating fuel, different things like that. And the attorney will do all that stuff.
Right. And there are transfer tax on mobile homes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I know that people up north don't do a lot of mobile home sales, but they do happen down in lower parts of Delaware. There's a lot of mobile home parks and stuff down there that you do have to pay a transfer tax, and the Section 11 covers that.
Yep. At the bottom of Section 11, it is a checkbox for buyer or seller to pay for deed preparation. And it says buyer shall pay all of the customary settlement charges. Whether on the buyer's agent or the seller's agent, I always check buyer. The way I look at this is the deed preparation is for their deed. The deed is being prepared for them as the new buyer and owner of the home. So that should be a buyer charge in my mind.
Yeah, the seller's already paid for it when they bought it.
Exactly.
Because I guarantee the buyer paid for that. Yep.
Exactly. Now I have seen, and I've had this discussion with Andre and Jeff, when you get further downstate in Delaware, I don't know if it's agents trying to take advantage of northern Delaware agents, or if it actually, if they did have sellers paid for it. But I've seen a lot of when it's a downstate transaction, the buyer's agent tries to put this charge on the seller.
Yeah, no. Yeah, they do. But having dealt with a lot of downstate properties, every time we got an agreement of sale where it was one of our listings, typically the seller was checked. We pushed back on that because no, the buyer pays for that. It's your deed, dude.
Yeah. That's your only, you don't even need an argument. You say that's the deed for the buyer. Why would the seller pay for this?
Right.
That's just my take on it. So as you see,
you
it's
can
unchecked.
use it as a negotiation though, if you want.
Sure.
That could be used as a negotiation, some leverage if you need it.
Exactly. So the next couple of sections, talking about the title is in good marketable condition, meaning there's no liens on it, and the attorney's going to do the title work in Delaware for you. So they will let you know if there are any liens on the property prior to settlement.
And these are any type of liens: utility liens, mechanic liens, mortgage liens. You pissed somebody off really bad and owe them some money, they could put a lien on your house if they win in court. I mean, I've seen all kinds of nonsense come back on title searches that had to be satisfied before we could move forward with settlement, and that could delay settlement if title problems come up. Now, let me tell you too, sometimes some attorneys don't do that title search until the last minute. You can know 2 days before settlement or a day before settlement if there's a title issue. Okay, so because the paralegals run it and then they set it on the attorney's desk, and the attorney is preparing for settlement like the next day, and go, oh, nope, we can't do this. And same with encroachments and surveys and things like that. So just know that this could come up a couple days before settlement.
Exactly. And then we're going to kind of cruise through some of these other sections, but delivery of documents. So you want to make sure that everything's being delivered in a timely manner. Electronic communication does count for delivery of documents. This is not recorded. The deed will be recorded. Fair housing. We know we don't discriminate any of these parties, any of these protected classes. So you just have to be very very
Mhm.
cautious of what you say and make sure that you're just being fair to everyone. FERPTA and Delaware tax. Again, this is more for like the attorney and an accountant. So if you have an investor possibly from that's foreign and it's going to be a big transaction, you might want to have them definitely consult the attorney and the accountant before for any of their liabilities as far as taxes go.
Right, and now the 5403 document, let me just talk about, that doesn't
Sure.
really affect the buyers. That
Yes.
affects the sellers,
Yes.
okay? So just, the paralegal will send this 5403 document out. But just remember, that's more for the sellers. Are you gonna be
Yes.
still living in the state? Are you moving out of state? Because Delaware wants their money, damn it. They want
Yes.
to get it. So that form is gonna do it. If you're moving out of the state, you're gonna have to pay some tax before you
Yep.
move.
Exactly. So what she means by that is on this 5403 form, they're going to ask you if the property was occupied for 2 of the last 5 years. And if the owner is in state or out of state, and if they're out of state or moving out of state, then Delaware collects the taxes right then and there at settlement.
Right.
The attorney the attorney holds the taxes to pay the Delaware tax right then and there. So
Right.
that way, if the person is out of state, they don't just send them a bill and have them lackadaisically send their money whenever, if ever. So the attorney will process that, and this does affect the seller. Being exactly right. All right, homeowner's warranty. The seller can provide a warranty. The buyer can purchase their own. There's pros and cons to it. It's good. It's kind of a little safety net, especially for first-time home buyers. So they might not have a major expense their first year of like home ownership. Risk of loss, I would just read this. This is just saying that the property will be transferred in the manner that it was viewed. If there was anything major happen, the seller's responsible for that. What I do with a seller, when I'm talking to sellers right at the beginning, I say, look, here's the deal. We got a contract. Here's all the dates. As we get about 2 weeks out, I say you can call the utility companies and say we're settling on such and such a date. We're supposed to settle on 3/27. I tell them, do not cancel your homeowner's insurance until settlement is completed. Do not call your homeowner's insurance and say, hey, 2 weeks in advance, we're settling on 3/27. Because if they cancel that policy on 3/27 and you have to extend it even 1 day, you have to extend settlement 1 day for whatever reason, and God forbid something happens to that house, they are no longer insured or covered, and they are responsible to provide that house to the buyer.
Absolutely. So it's best for sellers to let the property close and then call the next day.
Exactly. That's exactly what I say. All right. The next section just talks about the condition of the property, and then we're going to get into the home inspections. So the first part of the home inspection is wood destroying insect. Here you can put in a specific date, or if you leave it blank, it will default to 15 days from execution.
This is also known for the newer agents as a WDI.
Yes, you might hear people say.
Yeah,
Yep.
you might hear some attorneys say, I need a copy, or lenders actually
Yes.
will say, I need a copy of the WDI.
Yep.
I see that going away more, but it's some lenders absolutely require it.
Yep.
So,
Yep. So this one, they were going to have their home inspection. Remember, this deal was signed on 12/11, so they're going to do their home inspection within 10 days. So a little bit faster period, which is nice. And then here again, so they're going to have their response to the seller by 2/21. Then they're giving the seller to 2/24 to review the request and go back to the buyer with any pushback or with any acceptance, whatever it might be. And then the buyer has 4 more days. So I personally like to do hard dates like this, but you need to make sure that when you are, if you are negotiating, that like being referred to in the mortgage where you make those updates, say you're negotiating for 5 days, like say we got this contract on 2/11 and he has 2/21, which is already a fairly short home inspection period of 10 days. If we take 5 days to negotiate back and forth and my seller signs on 2/16 and they didn't update this, they have 5 days to
Yeah,
get their home inspection done. Unless buyer and seller agree to extend the dates on an addendum.
that's right. Yep. I was just gonna say that I kind of got blocked up with that recently with an offer that we had written where it took a few days to negotiate it. And what did Dumb Bean do? Dumb Bean did not change her dates. I changed everything else, but I
Yeah,
forgot to change the dates on the inspection contingencies, and we ultimately had to do an extension. Wasn't quite my fault. It just took a while for the seller they accepted our agreement as it was. It just sat over there for 4 days.
yeah.
So there was, anyway, it's important to make sure that's changed.
So that's just something to be very, very cautious of, because that's what some agents are doing right now with the market. The people are putting a listing up on a Thursday and saying all offers will be reviewed on Sunday. So if they're not reviewing until Sunday and then the owner makes a decision on Monday, that's 4 or 5 days from when you did this. So if you see that on Bright that they're taking an extended period of time, you may want to leave this blank so you just have that 15 days from ratification.
Yep.
And the only other thing to notice is it says 15 days from ratification, and then once it's submitted, the seller has 7 days from receipt of their submittal. So the way that works is if they get their home inspection done in 3 days and send you a response on day 4, your seller doesn't have 22 days to make a decision. They have 7 days from when they get their request. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas on this one, they have until the 24th. So if they submitted the home inspection on the 13th, the seller has 11 days to think things over. Is that clear for you new guys? Does that make some sense? All right, and then this last line you can add if there's any other inspections that you want completed.
That would be like sheds.
A shed or
if
something,
there's a
yeah, a
shed,
detached garage.
stucco,
Yes.
things like that.
Yep. And then if you scroll down, you get into some more, the next section is the other inspection. So there's septic. Now septic is the seller's responsibility to have it done, but the buyer can have it inspected if they have concerns as well at their expense.
That's right. The seller does have to have the septic pumped and
Pumped.
certified.
Yes.
Okay, that it's operational and that it's okay. If they can't provide that, then you have every right, your buyer has every right to walk away from this contract.
Yep.
It depends on the buyer whether or not you would offer up their own inspection. Don't forget, the buyer's already spending a ton of money in inspections between, a home inspection radon and WDI. They're probably spending $600 or $700
Yep.
in inspections. Do they really need this cost? If they do, if you think there's a problem or whatever, then suggest that. If not, then wait till you get the paperwork from the seller. You can also put, now listen, North Wilmington, you're not going to have to worry about these septic issues as well. This is only when you get down south.
Yes.
But in section 32, you can say buyer reserves the right to do a septic inspection after the certification is received.
Yes.
From the seller.
Yep.
Okay. And then if they don't like what they see in the certification, maybe an intake or something is faulty, then they may want another inspection.
Yeah. Yep. So the other ones are generally if there's a septic on a property downtown, there's probably well, so you want well water. Radon is if there's a basement in a property, and then swimming pools. So
Or if a property is on a slab that has a crawl space,
Has
I
a
think
crawl
3 or
space, yep.
4 feet
yeah, yep,
high.
yep. And then this just talks about the seller's duties and the buyer's duties again. Just read through it. Just talks about the delivery of the documents, and then the seller is responsible for major defects that the buyer requests. Now the buyer submits major defects. If the seller refuses to do a repair, then the buyer has the option to accept that or to possibly get out of the contract if they choose. Environmental conditions, buyer's default, seller's default. Again, just take some time and read it. I know I'm going to kind of cruise through just to move on a little bit. No representation if it's like a for sale by owner. Then there'll only be one agent. Indemnification attorney fees, that's going to be part of the attorney. The agent disclosure, again, don't look at the agent name.
Yeah, don't look at Dave Taylor.
I'll tell you what, like I said, I did it, Dave, that was a great transaction overall.
Yeah.
I mean, we worked very well together, and actually I currently have a deal going with Jim Pettit right now too, and we have a great deal
Very
going
good.
together. So
Very
great
good.
guys, I'm not judging them on their contract. I just used this contract because there was a lot of just missing information and different things. And he did tell me when we talked about it that he was rushing. So this is by no means a judgment of him. So just keep this within our office, please.
Yeah, but it's a great learning experience because there were some really vital information missing in
Yes,
this
there's some big
contract.
pieces of information missing. Exactly. And Bean
I
might
mean,
have a
if I
heart
had to
attack when she
guess, I
sees the
know-
next section.
I know these guys are relatively seasoned agents.
Oh, they're very seasoned agents, both of them. They've been doing this for years, not a
So,
year, years.
Yeah, so, it just goes to show that you need to take your time when you're but in this market, I can understand how things can be rushed.
Yep. And that's the thing. And now people are doing some stuff on their phones and on tablets, so it's a little bit harder to see and it's easier to miss information, that kind of stuff. And like I said, Bean's going to have a heart attack when she sees the last section, but Section 31 talks about all the addendums that are attached. So they signed off on the seller disclosure, lead-based paint and radon. They provided the pre-approval letter and the FHA document addendum, and they also had an escalation clause attached.
Yes, and also, guys, I noticed on the DAR forms, there is a new addendum called Sight Unseen. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Now, my team, we have our own Sight Unseen addendum. The DAR one is just as, it's good as well.
Yeah.
So in this day and age, there may be a time where you have a buyer that will buy a property sight unseen. This addendum will kind of CYA covering you, protecting you and the office. Because there can be a whole host of problems with people buying houses that they haven't seen. But that is the trend. That's the direction that we're going in this industry. So.
Yep. So that would go like any additional addendum you would put in here. So they added an escalation clause. You could check out this one for additional for the sight unseen. Section 32 is where Bean was talking about. So in this one, they're asking for a credit. Bean was talking about, you could put in here about the septic needing to be inspected after the fact. This section is basically where you can cover your buyers, whatever their ask is, you can put in here if need be. So for example, when you are submitting an offer as a buyer's agent, you are going to have the buyer sign off on the seller's disclosures. If there is something on the disclosure that the buyer is wanting either further information or to possibly be repaired, you're going to want to note that on here. So if they note that the roof is 45 years old, you're going to want to put on here, buyer reserves the right to have roof inspected and or repaired as necessary. Because if you don't put that in here and the buyer signs a disclosure and agrees and accepts that the roof is 45 years old, then they go to their inspection and the inspector goes, there's 47 leaks in this roof. Guess what? Your buyer signed off that the roof is 45 years old and they accepted that. Now you could probably ask for, try to get some roof repairs or a credit, but that's going to be a tough negotiation for you.
I'm sorry, Leon, I stepped away. Are you talking about the seller's disclosure?
Yeah, sorry. So what I
Okay.
said was in section 32, I said if
Mhm.
there's something on the seller's disclosure that the
Yes.
buyer has a concern about, if you don't note it in section 32 here, that the buyer's going to have that further inspected or wants that repaired or wants an item left, something specified, when they sign off on that seller disclosure, they're agreeing to what the seller has told them.
That's right.
what
So if
I-
your seller's disclosure say you get a basement full of water every time it rains, then that's your water.
Yeah.
If you sign off on that seller's disclosure.
Yep. And now the next page, Bean's favorite part, and Bean, you might fall out of your chair. So first, section 34. This is an easy one that a lot of people miss. So it says any changes. Has there been any changes to this document? This 99.999% of the time will be no. So what they mean by changes are not that you filled it out. You fill out all the blanks and that's fine. That's no changes. The changes means if you maybe have an attorney as a client and they're crossing out paragraphs, like if they go, oh, we're not going to do this, we're going to cross out this whole paragraph. That's where you will put, yes, there have been changes to this contract made.
I will tell you that's frowned upon.
Yes. Yeah.
So this contract was written by the DAR attorneys. So,
Yes.
you know, but every attorney, and trust me, I've worked with multiple attorneys, they've got to put their mark on it. So I wouldn't encourage it though, because if I was a seller or a seller's agent and I got an agreement that was all marked up and sections were changed, I'd be
Yeah.
like, hell no.
Yeah.
What are these people going to be like to deal with?
Exactly. You don't want any
No.
part of that.
Right.
You don't want any part of that.
So
All right.
encourage your buyers who are attorneys not to make changes to this form, this document.
Yep. So section 36 talks about the final acceptance. So if your seller is going to accept, they can sign here and then you have a ratified contract. If the seller is rejecting this offer, you might, as a buyer's agent, want to request that you should request that the seller signs the rejection as the buyer's agent.
Especially in multiple offers. We've
Yes.
taken on the process here. Anytime we have a listing, especially if it's multiple offers, the seller signs the reject and we send this page to the buyer's agent.
Yep.
Saying we presented your offer
Yes.
and this offer was rejected.
Yep. Because Bean's 100% right. As a buyer's agent, having the seller sign this rejected area is the only way to fully ensure that your offer was presented to the seller.
Mhm.
And where you might see it the most, where it could be a little questionable, is if the listing agent is also the buyer's agent and is representing both sides. That I don't want to say people do shady stuff, but if I'm representing the buyer and the seller, it's might make the transaction a little easier. But if I'm a buyer's agent and I presented an offer, I want to know that my offer was presented. Because especially in this market, if it's a multiple offer and it's a strong offer, I want to know that my offer was presented.
Right. And whose offer, if you're the listing and the buyer's agent, whose offer are you going to push forward first?
Exactly. So we're supposed to be very impartial, and in dual agency, you still have to be impartial, but we're humans also.
Yeah.
So it's just, instinctual, like, look, this is a strong offer that my buyer has. I will coordinate between both of you and we'll get this deal done. That might look enticing to a seller, and then if they don't present my offer was $5,000 more. Who knows?
You're right, right.
So the last section,
Oh my God.
like I said, Bean might fall out of her chair. So this section is for the contact info. So these two sections are very important because this is how the attorney connects with both agents, how the agents connect one another. That has the office info, because just putting Keller Williams here, they didn't even specify Keller Williams Wilmington. There's multiple Keller Williams offices. I always put the code for both offices. And guys, all of this information can be found right on Bright.
Yep, sure enough can. And
So-
just also, this really chaps me because this isn't rushed. This is lazy.
Yeah, this, like, does anybody know their license number by heart? I know my license number by heart. So
No.
why would you? I mean, you guys are new, so I'm just. It's once you start typing it in a few times, you're going to start to know it. This person has been an agent for a long time. They know their license number. Trust me. So their license number should be here. Does anybody know their Bright code? I know my Bright code number off the top of my head.
Let me just say this. If you submit a contract to compliance and this section isn't filled out, it's going to be returned to you. Period. That's lazy.
Yep. This is
So-
important. And then the office code. Does anybody know the office code? The office code is KELWLMWM. Keller Williams Wilmington.
That's the Bright code.
Yeah, that's our code
Yeah.
for our office in Bright.
That's
and then
correct.
your number, your code in Bright is a number. Mine is 325-1983. So I put that on all my transactions. And then my license number is RS0025092. Once you start filling out a few of these, you start to remember that number.
Mhm.
So again, and the office address, their office address. A lot of places are asking for the brokerage IDs. You want to make sure just this information's filled out, because all
Yep,
this.
and that's your
goes-
broker license number.
Yeah, that's your broker license.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know that by heart. So
It is-
what I'm going to do, since it's already been an
That's
hour.
because it changes.
Yeah.
Your brokers change, so
Yep.
therefore your license, your license number changed.
Yep. So since it's already been an hour and 15 minutes, you guys have about 15 more minutes. We'll go through maybe this other one and then just talk briefly about compliance.
Now, I have a quick question, Leon. When you
Yes.
did the corrections, did you make the corrections and send it back, or did you tell him what corrections to make?
So I talked to him and I said, hey, we need to fill some of this stuff out. How do you want to do this? So you'll notice I did add like a text box here and put my seller's address. This is the updated version that I sent.
Got it.
Now, what I was saying, when I went back and did some of this, I should have probably, even though this is minor information, I still would probably put initials next to everything, just to let them know that it was a change to the original
I would have
contract.
requested a whole new contract.
You would have? I was a little bit nicer with him. I had a discussion with him over the phone, and I said, look, we need to fill some of this information in. Because it is missing and I don't like it. And
They still didn't put, wait, go back up. They still didn't put how it was going to be distributed. They
Yep.
still have 12 days, so they've
Yep.
kind of
Like I said, I
backed
left
themselves
that.
in a wall.
Like I said, I left that. That's, as a seller's agent, I was fine with that. That was on
Right,
the
but-
buyer's agent.
I understand, but I'm trying to tell our buyers that there are buyers agents that are sitting right here.
Yep.
Guys, you are working in the best interest of your buyers. So you just make sure, and you know, Leon is right. As a listing agent, I'm sure, hell yeah, I'll take a second deposit before the home inspections are
Yeah.
due.
Yeah,
Why not?
sure.
And that's
sure.
more money that you put in your seller's pocket if this were to go south.
Yep.
If it's, you know, if it's deemed that the buyers are in, you know, out of contract.
Yep.
So,
I forgot. I missed that even check off check. I would have probably put a check marks in the check because it was delivered in a check. This is just a preference of mine. I don't like leaving blank lines, so I always put NA on both of these lines. That's, like I said, that's just a preference of mine. Financing contingency, I discussed with the lender and the buyer's agent. We talked about a date. And again, I probably should have put initials right here that both parties agreed to that date.
wait, Leon, you talked to the lender?
Yeah,
So you put in March 17th.
I put that there. Yeah.
Okay, just
I
making
talked to the
sure.
lender and the buyer's agent about the changes that I was going to request, the updates. So
Right.
as a listing agent, and I know I've had this discussion with Andre and Jeff because they've had listings. As a listing agent, you can call the lender for the buyer and have a
Absolutely,
conversation with
as you
them.
should.
So when I get an offer, I call the lender and I say, hey, I just have a conversation. Look, I just want to introduce myself. I'm the listing agent for Rodman Street. I see you're representing the buyer that's purchasing it. Just have a couple questions, like how strong are their documents? Like, are you going to be able to hit your commitment date of March 17th? This lender was a really good lender. Like I said, we settled this 3 weeks early. This is the quickest settlement I've done. They had their commitment date in probably 20 days or less. They hit their commitment date, and so
And
they
you
were
know,
on-
that's really good for an FHA
I
loan
know,
too.
I know.
That's
They were on
really
top of
good.
it. They were on top of it. So I added that. So I probably should have put initials right there. My mistake, but they accepted it. So a couple of the other changes we made. So here's something where I said the buyer's paying for this, and we had them sign off because that's a charge. So I made sure to put the initials there. We left the home inspection dates alone. Like I said, I just want to cruise through real quick. So there's some of the couple of the changes. I left that alone. And then in the bottom, I filled in a lot of the information.
Thank you.
Just because I wanted that information there. I put our office code, our office address, my Bright code, my license number, my email, his license number, his Bright code, his office address, his office code.
Which is actually right on the MLS sheet that you're going to print out and have in front of you.
Exactly.
While you're doing this this contract. So.
Yep. So if you go to Bright, all that necessary information
Will be there.
is right there that you need. And what I'm debating on doing as a buyer's agent, I do not like when listing agents put in the documents about the presentation of offers. But what I have seen is an agent that had on their presentation of offers, all that information was right on her presentation of offers, which I thought was very nice.
On their presentation of offers, we have that as well. Whereas we have the broker code, I don't have the MLS code though, but that's a good touch. I might do that.
So here's my MLS number, which I said 325-1983. My license number, my contact info, our office code. That's if you click on my name. If you click on my name, it takes that. All the info is right here though. There's my Bright number. There's my license number. There's my cell phone. There's my email. There's our office number. There's our office number. There's our office broker. All the info is right there. It's all right here. See, here's my deal with Jim. I'm doing the deal with Jim, like I said, right now. So this is a pending listing. All the info is right here. So that agent, whether it was rushing, laziness, oh crap, where'd it go? Rushing or laziness,
Mm-hmm.
You want to fill this out. This is important because this has our info. So in this case, Dave was the agent. Jim is the broker for that office, I believe. Or I don't know if they're partners or what, but Dave was the actual agent that I was dealing with. You want his info there. So we know who the contact is, who the agent is, that kind of stuff.
Now, for those buyers, and Leon, I'm just gonna express upon that, but you buyers who are gonna be part of a team, already on a team, sometimes as buyer's agent, you will have to write these contracts in the
the
rainmaker's
team.
name,
Yep.
okay?
Sure.
But you should put in your email and your telephone number.
Yeah.
It could be, like in my case, it would be under Steve Anzelevich,
Yeah.
but this would be my name, my telephone number, so
Mhm.
I get the contact. Hey, is Steve there? No, what is this concerning? It's concerning 123 Street. Oh, I'm actually the agent. My name is XXX. You know, I'm on his team. Da 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 da. Like that. So just bear that in mind if you are part of a team.
Yep. Yeah, so you would put that under the rainmaker's name exactly.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find this real
And
quick.
if you don't know what a rainmaker is, we need to get you into some more Keller Williams culture classes and stuff.
Yeah. All right, I was looking for one to show a presentation of offers, but that's not neither here nor there.
Okay.
So I know we kind of zipped through that last one pretty quick. I just wanted to show you guys the changes that I made with the other agent to kind of tidy up that contract some.
It was a good one, Leon. I don't think I have one quite that good, because it would have never came across my desk, to be honest with you.
Like I
But-
said, I had an overall a very good transaction with Dave. We closed early. We were negotiated the home inspection repair request easily. He was accessible, like communication wise. Everything was good overall. It just
Good.
was, as I got this contract, I looked at it, I'm like, when I opened it up and reviewed it, I was just like, in my head, I said, come on, man. Come on,
Well,
man.
yeah, because you feel like this is going to be a preview of what a transaction is going to look like.
Exactly.
You know, when you get your stuff in, that's tight, that's, you know, the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, you kind of breathe like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a good transaction.
Yep.
So he is a great agent. I know
Like I
him,
said,
yeah.
this is just for our office informational purposes. I just knew I had a good teaching tool with this one. So this was not in any way intended to criticize his work or criticize him, because
Right.
like I said numerous times, I had a great transaction overall with him.
Right. Now, too, I just want to go over the first steps that you would do when you have your contract, or when you're ready, when you have your, you've identified a property or what have you. In order to get everything linked in command, upon your initial meeting with the buyer, you should create an opportunity. Now, this is going to be only in the buyer's name so that you can complete the consultation phase of the command page, okay? The command tabs, which is the first section in the Delaware buyer, is the consultation, which requires the CIS and the affiliation document, okay? In order to, whether you're using DocuSign or .loop, in order to connect these so that you can do all your compliance stuff easily, is you insert your contact, could be Mickey Mouse, whoever.
Mhm.
Then you create an opportunity for that buyer,
Yep.
okay? It's gonna be in the buyer's name until you go under contract, and then you have to change the opportunity name to whatever the property address will be, okay?
Yep. Once you find a property, yep.
Yeah, so just make sure you put that on your checklist to change the opportunity name to the property address. And once you do that, it's going to be up in the top right-hand section. You're going to see start transaction. You're
This
gonna
one says
click
go to
that.
transaction because I already did it, but it would be right here. It would say
Oh,
start transaction.
Leon, I don't see that.
Oh, you can't see my screen?
Can anybody else see his screen?
Can you see my command?
No.
Sorry. Hold on, let me
No.
try and reshare. Hang on one second. I
So-
apologize. I
yeah.
thought you guys could see. All right, let's try this again. Can you see my command now?
Yes.
All right, so
Yes.
all I did was I'm in command. I went to opportunities where Bean was talking about under the buyers. I have one in here already, but you could do create a new opportunity and like she said, put in the buyer's name. So I have
And you
this
see,
buyer.
yeah. And as you see, it's just the buyer's name until your property is identified.
Yep, because we
Okay.
don't have that. And then what Bean was talking about is you go to documents and the first section of the consultation documents are this, the CIS and the affiliated business arrangement. And right here where it says go to transaction, it would say start a transaction.
Yep.
So
And it's
I
gonna give
already
you an
started
option.
this.
I'm sorry,
Oh.
and it's gonna give you an option to choose either .loop or DocuSign.
Yes, yes. You're gonna wanna
And then-
choose DocuSign unless you are choosing to work outside of that. That's our preferred connection is DocuSign. But here you wanna try and get these filled out early. So I don't have these filled out because I was given this buyer from his parents who I sold their property. He said he was looking for an investment property and that was about a year ago. I sent him these documents and he never signed them and we haven't really spoken since. So I have this kind of pending opportunity because I explained to him where the market was. I said, look, he's a first time flipper and I said, it's a struggle right now. It's a struggle. So I don't know if he's waiting for the market to shift, but I'm trying to keep in contact with his parents and I send him some email updates every now and then, just try and stay in touch. But
A
where
piece of
he-
advice,
what's
if you
that?
do have a buyer that you need to kind of cultivate a little bit, put them on a drip campaign within
Yeah.
command, just so you stay in front of them. Okay.
Yep.
So when you go to the transaction, it's going
think
to
I
take you
closed
to
mine.
whatever, either your Loop or your DocuSign. You're
Yep.
going to have to log into either one of these
Yeah.
platforms. And then once you get in there, it's going to give you, you can select the forms you need. You can send things for electronic envelope, electronic signatures, whether it's in envelopes or loops, it doesn't matter. It all gets the job done.
Yep.
Then from there, you can finish once you have everything loaded in and you go under contract, you can just go to your Loop or to your room and pull over those forms that are already there.
Yep.
Okay. Now, as you can see, I don't see DocuSign connected to that because, or I'm sorry, .loop connected to that because he went to DocuSign.
Yeah.
Those of you that says .loop, that will say .loop there.
Yep.
Okay. So don't just let you know. If it says required, like the little red here, required, then that form is required. If it's conditionally required, then that means it's pertinent to this transaction.
Mhm.
It don't necessarily mean that it's required by the state. Those required forms are required by the state. And those, if I don't have those forms, this will get returned to you. And when I say when I don't have those, when you add your file, okay, when you add the document, it's got to be the executed document. And what I mean by that, but all signatures need to be there and it needs to be complete. So that's what I'm saying. If your Delaware agreement of sale comes over, I don't care if it's already signed. I'm still going to return it to you if it's not completed properly. That don't mean you won't get paid. That just means that, you know, Bean is pushing back a little bit saying you got to kind of get your act together with these agreement of sale, with your documentation, or we reserve the right not to pay you at a later date if these are not correct, not completed properly. Leon, anything else you would like to
No,
add to
that's
that?
exactly right. So where it can get a little confusing is more on the listing side, I feel like personally, because you have the seller's disclosure. When you're doing your listing opportunity, in the first section, you put your seller's disclosure that are signed only by the seller.
Right.
That's under your consultation phase for a listing. For your under contract, you're going to put the seller's disclosure in here again, but you're putting the one that's signed by the buyer and the seller. So you have two versions put in two different places in here.
And that's the kind of stuff I'm looking at when I go through and approving these opportunities. Do I check every single form? No, but I do check the important ones. I do check the agreement of sale, and I do check to make sure all signatures are on the seller's disclosure when we get under the under contract tab. So I'm not so much looking, I don't care about the price, things like that. I'm looking for signatures, and I'm like, if you're a newer agent, then I'm gonna start looking at, did they fill this out correctly? Leon, how many times have I came over to you and said, hey, have you trained Donald Duck lately? Because their stuff is jacked up. And then I usually, if it's really bad, you'll get an email from me or a call from Leon, because Leon and I work on contracts and, you know, compliance and things like that. We work together. So we're talking about people who may need additional help. And it's okay if you do need additional help, just ask. I'd rather take the call and say, or an email that says, hey, I need help with this section, help you with that. So then when your compliance goes through, it's seamless. It's just going through.
Yep. And look, you guys are doing the right thing. Like, you guys are here. You guys are on the trainings that we offer. And I know for most of you on this call, this is the second or maybe even third time you're on the training. And I'll say this, I'm coming up on 3 years in the business. I did exactly what all of you folks are doing. When I first joined the office, every time there was a contract class, I got on it. Every time there was training on dot loop at the time, I got on it. And there were times when I was the only one there. And the reason I did that was because each time you take the class, you learn a little bit more. And as you're a little bit further in your career, like right now, if you haven't done a transaction, this seems like a lot of information.
It is.
But once you have 3 or 4 transactions under your belt, you start to really know and pinpoint what to look for. And then your questions get a little bit more higher level. And then when you do 5 or 6 more transactions after that, and you come to another class, your questions are a little bit more higher level. And you're just building upon your knowledge. Like, Andre, I worked with you. You just had a crazy hot property. How many offers did you end up getting? 7, 6 or 7?
Woo!
Yeah, 7 or 8. 7 or 8.
7 or 8. All varying types of offers, right?
Yeah. And even one came in, I was asleep. I sent the letter to the seller to sign. And when I woke up, I had another offer for $150,000. And all I had to do was ratify the contract to no contingencies, but the seller had already signed for 141.
Signed a different offer, yeah. Well, that's what I said. At some point, you got to cut it off, because right now, the way the market is, that was only, it was 7 offers within 2 or 3 days. So if you don't cut it off at some point, then it's just going to be continual. But
I would say,
okay.
Go ahead, Leon.
No, my point was what I was talking about with Andre. Andre and I were working together, so he was sending me the contracts to kind of review with him. And when you look at it a lot, Andre, how fast did I respond to you on a couple of them?
No.
Like ASAP, within 5-6 minutes.
Within 5 minutes, I already reviewed the contract and gave him the info on it.
Right, but by the 7th one, I kind of had a good idea. So it was more so, is it saying what I think it says? And if so, my seller is taking this. I just needed you to confirm that I saw what I saw.
Exactly.
Right.
It had no contingencies. It was all cash. Closing in 3 weeks. That type of situation. So I was like, oh, okay, I think I got it.
Exactly.
And then he hit me back and was like, yeah, that's it.
Also, Andre, for your listing, Leon, can you go up a little bit on your screen here?
Yeah.
If you look up at the top, you see offers. Okay. You can put in you could have put in all 7 offers.
Oh, okay.
and did a pro and cons
Yeah,
here.
if you generate these offers, it'll do like pro and cons list of them to help you explain to your seller if you want.
Yep.
Oh.
Now, we haven't necessarily start using this for multiple offers. I have a spreadsheet that I can
Yeah.
do, but as you get a little bit more, you know, your feet on the ground running with
Right.
this, you know that you can use this offer tab to put in all the offers, and then you can look at them. Okay, well, it's this type of financing, it's this type of loan to value ratio,
Okay.
whatever the case may be. And it even
Yeah.
allows you to put in your own remarks. So
Yep.
the seller will see those remarks as well.
Exactly. And Andre, you're the reason I brought up that example is because that's exactly what my point was going to be. The first couple you emailed me, and it might have been gibberish to you because it's
Yeah.
so new. But by offer 6 and 7, you kind of knew what to look for. So that's like the silver lining with the market we're in right now. When you have multiple offers as a listing agent, you're getting to review a bunch of offers, and you start to know what to look for on the selling side.
Mhm.
When
And then Leon also in that, because there was a couple times where because we was downstate, the I guess the buying agent was trying to get us to pay that extra fee that you was
that
just
deed
talking
prep,
about.
The
yup,
deed,
prep,
right.
yup.
So, and then also listening now about that one, the buyer, the buyer's agent that kept requesting
the
for
rejection.
me the rejection. Right.
Yep.
So I mean, his offer was strong, and he was the one that went up to 150. And if I
Yeah.
made the ratifications, no contingencies.
Yeah.
So I can understand why he was pressed on that after hearing
Yeah.
you say why that would be an issue, or why you would want it.
No, I got you. I got you. So again, like that was a good situation for you, a good learning experience. And while it stinks as a buyer's agent to lose out on an offer for a buyer, it's kind of helpful early on in your career because you get the practice of writing the contract. So I got my license in March. My first 2 buyers that I got were in April and May. My first buyer that I picked up in April, we wrote 3 contracts before we got accepted. We lost out on 2 properties and got the 3rd one. My second buyers, we lost out on 7 properties and got an accepted on the 8th. So for my first 2 clients, I wrote 11 contracts.
That's some good practice.
So while it was frustrating and upsetting for the buyers and tough to swallow as a new agent when I was losing deals, I got very confident very quickly writing the contract and reviewing the contract.
And it is best for you to read that, the agreement of sale in its entirety so that you understand it and you can answer questions, legitimate questions about it.
Yeah. Because your buyers and your sellers are going to ask you questions. So you want to make sure that you're very familiar with it. And look, you don't need to be an attorney. You don't need to know it to the letter, because there are times now that I talk with Bean and I discuss things because are some gray areas in the contract. So sometimes it's helpful just to talk things out a little bit.
Right. And I mean, people can interpret things differently. So you want to
Exactly.
make sure that you're doing what's in the best interest of your client, whether it's the seller or the buyer.
Exactly. That is 100% right. So I know we kept you guys for a long time today.
Are there any
questions?
questions,
Yeah, does anybody have any questions about
comments?
anything that we talked about?
Anybody glad that 2020 is over?
I am.
I am.
Right.
So
Okay.
Shanika, have you,
So is
I know,
there no PC groups today?
what was that?
I think PC group was supposed to.
I don't know if it's my computer, but it was all broken up. I apologize.
No, yeah, I couldn't hear it either.
Can you hear me?
A little bit better.
Yep.
Can you hear me now?
I think you're frozen now.
Okay.
If you have a question, go ahead, type it in the chat if you want, since we're having some
No,
audio
I
trouble.
was wondering if we were still doing PC group today.
If we were doing what today?
Oh, the productivity coaching? If you have a question. Is that what you were asking, PC coaching? Shanika, I think you're totally frozen now.
Well, I have another engagement. I do have to go, but Shanika, if you need to call me or Leon, please
Today.
do an email.
Was that PC?
I think it was today.
I'm not sure. I got an alert on my phone that it was going to be at 11, but I'm not sure if Ashley changed it.
Okay.
Well, I can let her know that you guys were in class too, if you missed
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But I gotta jump off. Leon, you are the man.
Thank you.
I
thank
appreciate you.
No
Thank you.
problem.
listen,
That was
guys.
helpful.
Also, keep a lookout. I'm going to suggest that we do a class on supporting documents as well, on what's
Yes.
required,
Yes.
whether it's listings or sales.
Yes.
And then also, I really want to delve into the compliance aspect
Yes.
and really teach you guys, you know, what is required in the state and why these forms are important. Because when you understand that, you can better educate your buyers and sellers.
Yes.
Okay, so be on the lookout in the next couple months for those types of classes, and those will be classes that I will teach, and maybe Leon will help,
Sure.
and
sure.
vice versa. If he's
Yep.
teaching a class, then you know I may hop on and help him out. So
Yep. Bean and I work well together, and we're on
Yep.
the same page with a lot of stuff. So our office is all about teamwork. So we're here to support the office and you guys.
yeah,
So
and it's
oh, go ahead.
always great to see beautiful faces.
Mhm. Maybe in 2021 we'll get to do it in person.
Oh, wouldn't that be great? We could have an actual classroom training session.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Is that the
Yeah,
norm?
What's that?
Is that the norm? I would imagine.
This
Yeah.
is the norm right now.
Well, right
The
now, yeah.
Zooms,
But
yeah.
like pre-COVID, like you guys had like your trainings in.
Yeah, prior to COVID, we have that large conference room where we can do the projector. So typically, Bean and I will be in there. One of us will be on the computer with the projector, and the other one will kind of be discussing with everybody, and we can all kind of walk through on your computers at the same time, like getting in a DocuSign, opening a contract, kind of reviewing it right on your computer.
Yeah. Also, what we're thinking about doing is actually pre-recording these classes, and Leon and I be on Facebook Live and answer any questions that would come up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So you know, we'll re-record it. We will record the class and just post it on Facebook at a certain time. And those of you that are tuned in, if you were to have any questions or whatever, then we would be
Yeah,
there
we're
to
available for questions.
make sure to answer them and, you know, just work you
Yeah.
through any questions or problems that you would have.
Yep.
And I missed the first like 15 minutes of the class. Where can I go to find like this class again? Because I see it's recording.
Yeah, we recorded this one. So Trish, I'll work with Trish this afternoon or Bean, and we'll try and see where it's going to get posted more than likely on our office resource site. So I'll see if we can't get Sarah to get that posted and put up there.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Sierra and Shanika, I know Shanika, your audio hasn't been the best. We can't really hear each other, but have you guys written any contracts yet, or are you guys brand new?
I'm super brand new, like to a point. I don't have a license number yet.
Okay, okay.
I don't have
Yeah,
anything
we're
yet.
in the
Still waiting
same-
for my license to come in.
Gotcha.
But you
gotcha.
will have questions when you write your first
Yeah.
one. And it's scary, but just know that you're not going to break anything.
Yeah.
And that you have some resources here to help you out.
Yep. Yep. So we'll have
Right.
this posted, and then myself and another agent, Rob, are also contract coaches in the office. So Ashley will work with you guys to kind of pairing us up to kind of help you through writing your first couple of contracts and reviewing them and everything.
Yep, and you can always email me or reach out to me. I'll be able to help you out too. Jeff, is Jeff still on here? Because
I
I've
think
helped
Jeff
him out a
jumped off,
lot.
yeah.
Yeah. So just know that we're always available. I'm always in the office. So,
Mhm.
you know, just come on in. I'm in Steve Ancelovich's office. So come on in and I'll help you out with anything that you need.
Um,
You got it.
All right. But right now I got to scoot off. So,
All right, Bean, you have a great
all right,
day.
thank you
yep,
so
it's
much.
good seeing all you beautiful people. And just know it's a great day for America.
That's right, that's right.
All right. I'll see you guys.
All right, have a good one.
Bye. Bye.
All right, any other questions about anything? You guys all good, kind of?
Right now, I just don't have any questions because we haven't really
So
dived
no.
in just yet. So I feel like I'm just kind of soaking in information as I get it, kind of.
Yep, that's the best way to do it. Like I said, so this is about to be my 3rd year, and when I first joined, I did the productivity coaching with Ashley, and there was probably 3 or 4 people in there with me to start out with, and that was in March. By the summertime, it was down to just me, and I went faithfully every week. We met in person, did our tracking, talked about what the next week we were going to do, and I just stayed on it, and I attribute a lot of my success to that. And like I said, I attended other training. What's that?
The product to make sure the productivity coaching.
Yeah, the productivity. Like I said, I attribute a lot of success to that, and the fact that I went to a lot of the other trainings too. So anytime early on in your career when you don't have as much like transaction and busy work, just try and soak up as much education as you can.
Okay.
That's the best way to get started. All right.
Alrighty.
Did you do a lot of marketing in the beginning?
Did I do
Like-
it? No.
No.
So I'm very lucky. I really just kind of talked to my sphere. I called people my phone book and my cell phone, and tried to build out a database of my like friends and family. And I've been lucky to have been able to get a lot of business from that. I would say almost 90% of my transactions have been friends and family.
Okay.
And my first year, my goal was try to do 1 a month. I closed 11 in my first year.
Wow.
Nice.
You got good friends and family.
So like I said, it's all about just talking to them and getting involved, and then you do right by them, and then they spread the word for you. And that's the biggest thing.
That's good.
I still don't do a ton of marketing. I hammer out 3 farms. I market to my development that I live in, and the development that my parents live in, and my in-laws live in. And I send out a mailer, and I do like some giveaway stuff. I do something like once a month in there, and try and talk to people, that kind of stuff.
And when
So
you're calling, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, when you're, and this might sound like a really simple question, but like when you're calling friends and family, like, are you just telling them, just obviously catching up with them and just saying like, hey, going into real estate? Because I guess I don't want to say fear, but like my concern with like telling people is like they'll come to me and I can't do anything because I don't have a license. You know what I mean? So I'm like,
Yeah, no, so that's a tough spot to be in, but don't let that stop you, because if your license is kind of pending right now and you're just waiting on it and you have somebody ready to go, myself or Rob will be able to help you get started. And I'm not in the business of taking anything from you. I'll have you working through the whole transaction with me, and we'll just have it stuff under my name. But I don't want you to lose out on a client potentially just because you're just waiting for your license info.
okay.
So
Yeah.
we could take a buyer out if need be, or we could write a contract. We could do that, and it would just be under my license number temporarily until you get your info.
Okay.
What was I gonna say? I forget where I was going. I'm sorry.
I interrupted you.
No, it's okay. It's hard on Zoom. It's hard on Zoom because it's not like being in a physical place. But yeah, we're here to support you guys. So I know sometimes. Oh, I know what I was going to say. I was going to talk about how I reached out to the people. So before I did get my license, so I got my license March I think it was like say March 3rd. I joined the office on February 14th. So when I went to like those first couple of trainings and stuff, the calling that I was doing to my database that Ashley was having me build out was, hey guys, I changed my career. I'm new to Keller Williams. I just got my real estate license, even though it was coming. So I just got my real estate license. Who do you know looking to buy or sell a house? I would love to help them out. Just kind of let them know. That message has shifted a little bit for COVID. So COVID, a lot of the calls are centered around like care and just checking in. So you say, I'm calling you, Sierra. I say, hey, Sierra, how you doing? I know we haven't talked in a while. Just calling to see how things are going for you. How are you doing through COVID? How's everything going? Is everything okay with you? And you're going to say, yeah, family's good, or things are okay, whatever it might be. And then I'm going to ask you, so how's work going for you? Has work been affected by COVID? Are you working from home? And you're going to say, oh yeah, I'm working from home right now. It's nice, but it's challenging. And then what question do you think you're going to ask me back? How's work going for you?
Yeah.
And you say, well, actually, I got some exciting news about that. I did get my real estate license and I'm hitting the ground running. And even though it's COVID time, the market is extremely hot right now. There are not a lot of houses for sale. Inventory is way down compared to previous years. Buyers, it's still a great time even for buyers, even though they may be in a multiple offer situation. And even though they may be paying over full asking price, they're getting some of the best rates in tens or more years. I'm seeing rates less than 3%. Personally, I just had a client that settled that bought a house in May of 2020. I just hooked him up with my lender. He's refinancing. Just this past week, he called me and said, hey, Leon, I'm looking to refinance. Who do you know that I can talk to? I said,
You're good now. I think you hit the mute button by accident. You're good.
I think
now.
Trish muted me on accident. Maybe I was getting too loud. I just said like, hey, the lender that I hooked you up with for the purchase, I know he doesn't focus on refis a lot, but I got another guy that I'll send you to. And my client just texted me yesterday and said, hey, my interest rate's coming down almost 0.75%. That's going to save me over $100 a month. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
So that's how the message has shifted a little bit. Once we get out of COVID, one of the other kind of scripts that I do like to use when I'm reaching out to my database is we have a contest script. So not always a contest going on, but there's a script that it's just short and sweet. I say, hey Sierra, this is Leon. How are you doing? My office is running a contest right now to see how many contracts I can get signed. I really want to win this competition. I'm up against Sierra and Shanika right now, and I'm just calling to see who do you know that might be looking to buy or sell in the next month. And you're gonna go, oh man, I mean, I'm not ready to buy or sell, but hold on, let me think. Can I call you back? Or hold on, let me look through my phone book. And they'll be like, oh, my brother, Jim, he might be ready to sell. I think he talked about that at Christmas time, that he was thinking about looking for an investment property, or he was thinking about upgrading to a larger home. And you say, hey, well, I would love to help. I would love to help Jim. Is there any way you could send me his info and connect us? And then boom, you have a referral client. Or potential referral client, but I mean, you get their contact info and then you reach out to them and see what they really want to do.
Okay.
So I like that contest script just because it adds a little bit of excitement to it, and it's not just the same old, hey Sierra, this is Leon again. Like,
Right.
I know I just talked to you last month and you didn't have anybody looking to buy or sell. But how about this month? Do you know anybody looking to buy or sell?
It switches it up, but yeah.
So that kind of makes it a little fun. And if you're calling somebody in your phone book and you're basically asking them for help, they're going to try and help you. I mean, they're your friends. They're in your phone for a reason.
Yeah.
They're in your phone for a reason. So more than likely, they're going to try and help you out if they can.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right. And yeah, I'll check with Ashley because I did see that 11 was supposed to be PC, and I don't know if that got shifted. I know sometimes we were doing it on Thursday and then sometimes Wednesday. So if it was today at 11, we'll probably pick back up next week. And we'll just use this as kind of the coaching class for the week.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
All right, guys. You have a great day.
All right. You guys too. Bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
No problem
Bye.
at all. You guys have a good one.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Trish, are you there?